I did not realize your shirt had little goes with wine glasses.
Yeah.
I run for the boo.
The booze.
Oh, the booze.
But like the OOS.
I was like, Kate, is Matt making you run? Because if he is, we have to have a conversation.
I run from my boo. He makes me do it every morning.
Matt just sitting on the porch like, faster. And you're like running around the neighborhood.
Is that good enough, babe? Is that good enough?
Oh, no.
Oh, let's reel it in. Hey, Misfits. This is Kate.
And this is Kevin.
Welcome to Horrorwood. You have blonde hair now.
I do, listeners.
I like it.
I needed a change just from having constant, like, dark brown hair.
I'm into it.
And I used Manic Panic Amplified Lightning 40 volume.
The name alone is a winner.
It burned like a motherfucker, but it looks good.
It does look good.
Yeah,
I like
I'm
it.
happy. And I had to tone it to like a yellower blonde instead of like a light platinum.
I like it. It kind of matches your shirt.
It does. Ooh, my voice cracked.
Kevin, are you
it's
growing
my
up?
third puberty.
Since we aired the last episode, our Misfit Monday episode, more of you are sending in your stories.
Oh my God, I can't wait to read them.
And I'm so excited for it. We love it. Keep sending them and do it now while we're still kind of new and like most people don't know who we are.
Yeah.
So like right now we don't have a ton of listener stories, which means the chances of us reading yours on the pod are pretty good.
I mean, I would say 99%.
Yeah. 0.99999.
0.9999999. As long as it's not something that's like, you know, illegal.
Oh yeah, nothing illegal on your end. But if you see other illegal activity, send it in.
Write about it.
We do have two new Patronians. They are in the Misfit Murderino tier.
Yay.
We have Melanie Kell. Melanie Kell, this is your shout out.
Melanie Kell.
Melanie.
M-E. I don't know how to spell it, so I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
But Melanie.
It was a good first effort. And Jessica Trejo.
Hey, Jessica
Hello,
Trejo.
Jessica. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your support. And we really could not keep doing this without you guys.
Without them.
So thank you. Thank you a ton.
Thank you, y'all. And also, you know, if you're listening and you enjoy us, give us a quick rating and review.
Hey.
Like, we can really use it. It boosts us up in the podcast realm, you know, so rate, review, and subscribe. And, you know, maybe leave a good one, I guess. I mean, if you're listening, I would assume you enjoy
Are
the
into
podcast.
it.
And
I
you're
would
into
hope.
it. If you're not, then, you know, get the fuck out. Like, I don't know
Bye.
why you're here.
See ya.
Unless you just like to hate listen to stuff, which I think is a weird trait.
All right. This is... We're getting into it now.
Yes.
This is a well-known case, a very well-known case. There are a gajillion documentaries on it. I've watched them all. Most of them are mostly accurate. You know about this case.
I know about it, absolutely, because I loved the movie Waitress.
Yes.
And I love the musical Waitress.
Yes.
So I knew about it because of those things.
Okay. Well, hopefully I can give you some info that you haven't heard yet.
Yeah.
But we're talking about Adrienne Shelly today. Like this year, October 31st of 2006 fell on a Tuesday. And on the evening of Halloween in 2006, Adrienne Shelly and her husband, Andy Ostroy, threw a party in their New York City apartment for their 2.5-year-old daughter, Sophie. They invited all their friends and their friends' children. All the kids were dressed up in Halloween costumes. Sophie was Cinderella. She was this cute little blonde-haired girl, and she was wearing the blue Cinderella dress. One boy went as Batman. Actually, I think there were a couple of Batmen there. Batman?
Batman.
Yeah.
Batman.
I am Batman. I
What
can't
did
do
you
that
dress
voice.
up at that age? Do you remember?
I can't even remember what I wore yesterday. So no, I don't remember.
I feel like when I was a little kid, I was even like 2 or 3. I remember dressing up as a pumpkin. One year, my mom bought me a pumpkin outfit.
There was a pumpkin at this party.
Oh, yay. Good for them. Or a little baby Dracula.
That I would love to see photos of if you have any.
I might have some somewhere.
Amazing. Adrienne was wearing a light-colored button-down shirt with sweatpants, the classic mom who's been preparing for a party all afternoon. She's got her blonde hair up in a ponytail. She's talking with the other parents. They're all having a good time. There's also an adult dressed up as Elmo entertaining the kids. Dream come true if you're a toddler and there's a life-sized Elmo at your party. There were Halloween balloons throughout the home for decoration. And my favorite, a piñata in the shape of a ghost holding a jack-o'-lantern.
I wonder what kind of candies were inside that.
Is a party even a party without a piñata?
I don't think so.
It's not.
Did you ever have a piñata?
I don't think I ever had a piñata at my own party.
Yeah, same.
But I went to parties, and if they had a piñata, it was like, oh my God, are you guys rich?
Yeah, exactly.
You can watch home video of this party in the documentary titled Adrienne on Max.
Oh, okay.
If you have that. It might also be available on Prime, maybe. And if you watch it, you can see just how joyful Adrienne is and how much fun they're all having. But tragically, less than 24 hours later, Adrienne was dead.
No.
Andy found his wife in the bathroom of her Greenwich Village apartment that she used as an office, hanging from a shower curtain rod with a bedsheet tied around her neck. Investigators declared her death a suicide, which left Andy and all their friends reeling. How could someone who seemed so full of joy, someone who loved being a mom and was madly in love with her daughter, how could she kill herself? How could someone bursting with creativity who was waiting to hear whether her latest project, the movie Waitress, which she wrote, directed, and acted in, had been accepted into the prestigious Sundance Film Festival? How could she take her own life? To those who knew her, suicide just didn't seem possible. And they were right. This was no suicide. This was a murder.
I forgot that her murder was staged to look like a suicide. And I also will say, like when suicide happens, you never really can fully understand why. So, you know what I mean? Like it happens to like the best of the people we think are doing great.
Which is why it's
so shocking, right? Like,
and why the family members just couldn't
comprehend.
Comprehend
in any situation. I get it.
But I mean, they were right. They knew her.
They knew her. In this instance, they were absolutely right.
And this was a horrific murder. But let's start from the beginning.
Yes.
Adrienne Shelly was born Adrienne Lauren Levine on June 24th, 1966 in Queens, New York.
Oh, I didn't know she was from New York.
Yeah. She was of Russian descent,
okay.
But a New Yorker, born and raised. Adrienne grew up on Long Island with her 2 brothers and their parents, Elaine and Sheldon. Even as a kid, Adrienne knew what she wanted to do with her life. She began acting in plays when she was in kindergarten, just 5 years old.
Kindergarten? I read a poem in kindergarten called I Think Mice Are Nice.
Do you remember it?
I think mice are nice. That's all I remember.
Okay.
That's how it started.
Okay. That was riveting.
Thanks, Kate.
According to Adrienne's mom, Guys and Dolls was the first musical that she did, which a 5-year-old doing Guys and Dolls, like, let's give it up. That's amazing. The school would put on a play every year, and every year Adrienne was in it. When she was around 10 years old, she began performing at Stage Door Manor Performing Arts Training Center. Other notable alumni of this training center include Amy Ryan, Robert Downey Jr., Bryce Dallas Howard, and Natalie Portman, to name a few.
Damn, that's like A-listers.
Not a bad resume for the old Stage Door.
Good job, Stage.
It was also the inspiration for the 2003 film Camp, which was Anna Kendrick's film debut.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that movie in forever, but I remember loving it when I saw it because it was just so like out of anything I had sort of experienced.
I feel like, it came out in 2003, so it's been a minute since I've seen it. So Adrienne was in good company at Stage Door Manor, and it definitely helped strengthen her skill set that would put her on the path to success. And that skill set included acting, dancing, playing piano, singing. She had a voice that really stood out. Both her singing and her speaking voice were unique.
I didn't know she could sing. I didn't know she was a singer. She's a quadruple threat.
She's a lot of things. She is multi-talented.
Multi-talented.
The only way I can think of to describe her voice is young, which doesn't really tell you anything.
I think it does. I think I understand. I've seen enough musical theater to kind of feel like I understand what that means.
Someone characterized her voice as being that of like a Disney princess.
Like very like probably light.
Kind of childlike. Almost. That's a horrible description, but that's the only thing that I can think of to describe it. She was tiny in stature, only about 5'1" or 5'2", and is often described as looking like a doll. A doll, D-O-L-L. As soon as I said that, I was like, not a dog, a doll. Just to make that clear. She was this creative powerhouse wrapped in a compact little package.
Aww.
At Stage Door Manor, the kids put on a show at the end of the program, and there were agents in the audience. And after the show, several agents went up to Adrienne's parents and said, hey, your daughter's really talented. She could have a career in the arts. To which her father replied, no way. I will not have my daughter jumping out a window when she's 30. Which is like,
oh my God.
Ease up, Sheldon, but okay.
Sheldon, pull back, sweetheart. That's a really crazy thing to say.
It's a lot. Adrienne said her parents were supportive of her participating in the arts. They just didn't take it very seriously. I don't think they saw it as a career path necessarily.
Boo, eye roll.
She actually said her dad was the biggest creative influence on her life, which is interesting considering it sounds like he didn't want her to pursue it as a career, but maybe that's why he was so influential. Maybe she used that to drive her.
Or maybe he was just kind of letting her figure it out, because at that age, the parents would have had to get into it with an agent, right? So maybe he just wanted her to be able to like decide and carve her own path.
Because she was so young.
Yeah. Also, and then when you like get into that stuff with agents, like when you're a kid, like it's work.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of work. So
we'll do a whole thing on child stars. Don't you worry.
Oh, you better.
Adrienne was close to both her parents. Her mom would sometimes act in the skits that she'd write and later appeared in several of Adrienne's movies. And her mom is amazing. Like she's a delight. And Adrienne and her dad had a shared love of baseball. Being New Yorkers, they were huge Yankees fans. I know that you're like all up on the baseball nowadays.
I was just going to say, Kate, I love baseball.
You went to that one game. And
I went to one game and I get it and I'm an expert.
You are.
That's what everybody in that stadium thinks.
They sure do. They were all talking about it. She and her dad would go to baseball games together. Sometimes her brother would come. Yeah. It was just like the thing that they did together.
Yes.
In an interview with Timothy Reese for Movie Maker magazine in 1996, she said she's no fair weather fan. She said she cried when Reggie Jackson was traded and wrote letters to the Yankees organization because she was so upset. She had framed pictures of Don Mattingly hanging in her kitchen. These are baseball players, Kevin, just to let you know.
I know. I did the same thing.
Okay. She had framed pictures of Don Mattingly hanging in her kitchen and was heartbroken when he left the Yankees. So for my non-sports people out there, Don Mattingly was a baseball player turned coach turned manager. And he is the one person that Adrienne said left her completely starstruck. Even after her career took off and she was meeting all kinds of famous people, none of them really fazed her. But she saw Don Mattingly on the street once, about 50 feet away from her, and she said, quote, "My knees became weak and I started sweating." That is love.
That is love. Have you ever been starstruck like that, Kate?
You know what? When I lived in LA, I kind of got desensitized to it.
I was going to say, yeah, because you're kind of in it.
Yeah. I will say, Matt and I went to a wedding years ago, and Ty Burrell, is that his name? From Modern Family? Yeah. Was one of the guests, and he and I sat next to each other at the reception at the dinner. Mm-hmm. And I just kept thinking, like, I don't want to do or say anything stupid in front of Ty Burrell because I really like Modern Family and, like, he's legit. And then Matt took a bite of a roll and he started choking.
God damn it, Matt.
No, it was so embarrassing. I felt so bad for him. He was
see, I would have gotten the secondhand embarrassment and been like, stop it. Stop it.
You're ruining this for us.
Stop it.
No, it was embarrassing. And Ty was like, are you okay? He was fine. He's still here, guys. He's okay. When Adrienne wasn't at the Yankees games with her dad, like a lot of kids, she spent her summers at sleepaway camp, which she hated. She kept a journal, and in it she wrote, quote, I hate camp. Take me home. Allison is my new nice friend. She hates it here too. Renee is going home. So am I. So is Allison. I hate camp.
I get it. Camp is the worst.
Especially for a girl at that age, because a lot of changes are happening. And if you're away from home when that change happens, it's scary.
It's like, here's an idea. Let's just put you all in the woods and put stress on you. So fucking stupid.
Find your way out. It was during one of these stints at summer camp when she was 12 years old that her father, Sheldon, or Shelly, as he was called, died of a massive heart attack at the age of 40.
Oh, fuck.
His death had a dramatic influence on her life, as you can imagine. Her mom said Adrienne went into a funk after he died. She became really quiet and developed a deep fear of dying young. That fear stayed with her whole life. It also instilled this sense of urgency in her that she didn't have time to waste. Whatever she wanted to do in life, she had to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Her quote in her high school yearbook is, "Don't be afraid of dying, be afraid of never living."
Mine was a smiley face.
And that's it.
And that's it.
She adopted her father's name as her last name, so professionally she was known as Adrienne Shelly.
Oh my God. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's where that came from.
That's where that came from. So that was her stage name.
Mm-hmm. Her first professional gig was in a summer stock production of Annie when she was 15. She was not Annie. She was
one of the little girls.
She was one of the oldest orphans, I think she said.
Oh my God. That show is ridiculous. One of my first theater jobs, I had to like help cast a production of Annie when I worked in Maine. And the artistic director made me run the like girls casting session, and it was insane.
I can only imagine.
Oh my God. And they were all terrified.
Aww.
And so I had to like go up to the front of the stage and like look at them and be like, just look at me and sing. Like,
I feel like you would be really good at that.
Yeah, just look at me, because they would freeze up, and I'm like,
oh,
sing, sing,
sing,
sing.
I'm sure that helped them out a lot.
And then I got up on stage and auditioned. Imagine if Annie were like an old
35-year-old
Dominican
gay
woman
man
from.
Oh, okay. I thought that's where you were going.
Well, and also, what about that? What if I played Annie?
What about it? I think you could. Are you ready?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Listeners, I dropped my coffee this morning. It's raining. I love you.
He's having a moment.
I'm having a minute. Continue. I love this story.
In high school, she was the one the teacher would single out to sing a solo. She could play just about anything on the piano by ear.
Fuck.
According to the documentary I mentioned earlier, she never had any formal training. It was obvious what path she was going to take and knew exactly what she wanted. That same year, when she was 15, Adrienne got Bell's palsy, which left half her face paralyzed for a month.
I've seen people with that. It looks crazy.
I've known actually a lot of people, surprisingly, that have had Bell's palsy.
It's like a nerve thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be viral. It's interesting, but it does usually clear up on its own.
I've heard that.
Yeah, it's kind of wild because it seems to be very random.
Exactly. It's like people just wake up with it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So she had it for about a month, but it cleared up and she continued her acting. And by this time, she was starting to write her own stuff as well. When it came time to choose a college, she got into a couple of the really prestigious acting programs in the country. But that was going to be expensive to go far away. And since her mom was paying for it, she told Adrienne no way and didn't let her go.
And also they're in New York, though, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's some good-ass places there.
But she ended up going to Boston University.
Oh, that's not far.
And majored in...
musical theater.
Journalism.
Oh, my God. That's what I was going to start studying when I went to college.
Really?
Before theater, yeah. I was going to be a newspaper person.
A newspaper person? A journalist?
I was trying to think of, like, a synonym.
She eventually switched to the broadcasting and film department, and she says she's really grateful for the education she had. She didn't have any bitterness about not getting to go to one of the other schools. However, in an interview with Deirdre Guthrie for the Independent Film and Video Monthly, Adrienne said that in college she, quote, learned nothing. So, sorry, Boston University.
Oh my God.
Then in her junior year at BU, Adrienne got Bell's palsy again.
No.
The first time she had it, doctors told her it wouldn't come back. So when it returned, she was a little freaked out. She had to get these cortisone treatments, and she said they left her, quote, deranged and wandering about seeing halos. She said, I'm not sure what was happening to me biochemically, but it was very scary. I told myself then that if this ended, I would quit school and follow my real heart's desire to Manhattan and pursue a career in acting. The Bell's palsy did end, and she called up one of her closest childhood friends, Melissa Kaufman, and said, I think I want to drop out of college and move to New York and become an actress. What do you think? Adrienne was really nervous to tell her mom and wanted to run the idea by her friend first. And Melissa said, well, if that's what you want to do. And of course, Adrienne's mom, Elaine, was not too happy when her daughter called her up and told her this. She was like, you have 1 year left. Are you crazy? But Adrienne was persistent. She said, Ma, I know what I want. It's my calling.
Good for her. I feel like a lot of people do not do that, and they feel like they have to continue doing shit. And honestly, like, if something's not working for you, then it's not working.
Then it's not working.
You don't have to force it.
And I think I've said it on here before, but I really don't think college is for everyone.
It's not. Yeah, I've definitely said that. And it's so interesting. I feel like I came from a family where college is the ultimate goal and the ultimate, like, topper for you having a good life.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's like that. It's like a boomer mentality.
I was going to say, I think
like,
it's like ingrained,
right? Because that generation like didn't have all of that opportunity. So
right.
College to them was just like, this is the end all be all of
right.
like education and how your life is going to go. And now it's just not the case.
And I think for women didn't always have the opportunity to go to school. So I do understand that. But also, let's maybe not make it thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and put people in debt for decades. Anyway.
I just had to make my first student loan payment since the beginning of the pandemic.
Oh, yeah.
There goes my extra income.
Bye. So Adrienne dropped out and moved to Manhattan. She got an apartment with another actor and 2 strippers, like you do.
That's amazing.
And she started pounding the pavement. She got an acting coach. She submitted for every audition out there. And she was figuring out life as a woman in her early 20s on her own in New York. One day, she and her actor roommate got a copy of Backstage, which is a trade publication that lists all the auditions in the city. And they sent their headshots to every single one that even remotely applied to them. They sent hundreds of headshots out.
That's expensive.
Oh, tell me about it. One of the ones Adrienne sent out was to a producer who was casting music videos. She did not get called in for the music video, but a man in that same office was casting for his upcoming film and looking for his female lead. And someone held up Adrienne's picture and said, "What about her?" She was called into audition, and after about 3 rounds of auditions, like they kept bringing her back, Adrienne landed the female lead role of Audrey in Hal Hartley's first feature film, The Unbelievable Truth, which became a cult classic.
Really? I've never heard or seen it.
Yeah. Adrienne's mom was a little skeptical because Hal was this unknown director at the time. The film had practically no budget. It was shot in 12 days in houses that belonged to his relatives. They even slept in those houses at night. And Adrienne shared a room with a woman in charge of wardrobe and the makeup artist. So I'm sure her mom was like, I think you're going to get kidnapped. I think this is...
It's probably, shady situations. That could not be good.
Elaine did think that this was like the end of Adrienne. She was going to be taken away. And she was like, what have you gotten yourself into? You're doing what? For no money? Oh my God, it's a front. They're going to kidnap you. Like, she had a lot of fear. But Adrienne loved it. She loved independent filmmaking because the people that work in independent film really want to be there. They're there because they love it, not because of the paycheck. Mm-hmm. Because you're not getting paid.
Not at all.
Independent film. The Unbelievable Truth was selected into the Toronto International Film Festival, where it was a huge hit.
Good.
It was nominated for Best Feature at the Chicago International Film Festival, as well as the Grand Jury Prize for Dramatic Feature in the Sundance Film Festival.
I forgot that there's like a Chicago Film Festival.
Oh, yeah, it's happening
now.
now.
Have you ever been?
I've been. I have been. It's been a few years, though, since I went.
I've never been. I think that would be fun.
Yeah. And this started Adrienne on her path of becoming a darling of the independent film scene. Miramax bought the rights to the film. Miramax was co-founded by Harvey Weinstein.
No.
We'll do a whole episode on his fuckery at some point.
His fuckery.
Weinstein wanted Hal Hartley to recut the film because he wanted Adrienne to be nude at various points in the movie because he's a sleaze bucket. But Hal stood his ground.
Good.
And told Weinstein, fuck no, not going to
off.
happen. And I doubt Adrienne would have even done the film had there been nudity because that's just not what she was about. But she learned very quickly what the industry was going to expect from her, and she didn't like it. She starred in Hal's next feature, which was called Trust, that was also nominated for the Grand Jury Prize for Dramatic Feature at Sundance. And by this point, she was a star. In 1991, Screen World included her on its list of the 12 most promising actors, alongside Marissa Tomei and some guy named Brad Pitt.
Damn.
The offers started pouring in. Success happened very quickly for her, and she was pretty overwhelmed by all of it and a little scared of it. Suddenly, she's on magazine covers and she's invited to these industry parties, and honestly, she just wasn't interested in that part of the business. I think she saw herself as an artist, not a movie star. They are different. She made several more movies.
That was amazing. They are different.
She made several more movies, but wasn't thrilled with them. Filmmakers had a tendency to want to showcase her as a sex pot, and that's just not who she was.
Damn, yeah.
She had a lot of self-respect and didn't like how the industry treated women. So she decided to start her own theater company.
Good.
She produced it herself. She asked her actor friends to join, and they created a series of one-acts. Each company member wrote their own one-act play. I'm not sure how the director of each was chosen, but the writers did not direct it themselves, nor did they cast it themselves. So on the night of their staged reading, there were going to be a lot of industry people in the audience, some pretty big names. And Adrienne was freaking out because she felt the person directing her piece didn't understand her play, and she felt it was miscast. So she did what she often did. She journaled about it. And in her journal entry, she asked herself, what have we learned here? Write it and direct it yourself. You're too much of a control freak. Embrace the fact that you are a control freak and control. I think that shows not only how self-aware she was, but also how confident. She always knew exactly what she wanted.
Yeah.
She described herself as being shy and quiet when she was a kid. The stage was the one place she felt she could let it all go, which you hear that a lot with a lot of actors.
It's like a release.
Friends of hers described her as being fiercely loyal in her friendships, but when it came to her creative side, she was kind of an introvert. She would hole up in her apartment for several days at a time writing. She took her work very seriously, and she knew how to discipline herself to accomplish what she wanted to get done. She wasn't going out to industry parties, which are basically just held for people to schmooze each other. Schmooze each other anyway and try to get jobs.
Yeah.
She was in her apartment in the West Village of New York, planning out her scripts, creating her characters, and essentially creating her own jobs. There's a funny part in the Adrienne documentary where a friend of hers recalls taking food to her during one of these times when she stayed in her apartment writing for days. And the friend knocks on her door, and Adrienne opens it just a little bit and kind of peeks her head through. But she wouldn't let the friend in because apparently Adrienne was notorious for being super messy. All her friends commented on it. She wouldn't let them into her room growing up because it was a mess. Her husband, Annie, kind of laughs when someone asks him, you know, she was a little sloppy. And he's like, is that a serious question?
Oh, my God.
When they started dating, she wouldn't even let him over to her apartment because it was a wreck. But, you know, they say messiness is a trait a lot of creative people have in common. which I think is just what I need to keep reminding Matt about and be like, the reason my mail is still sitting on the counter 3 days unopened. I'm an artist.
You're an artist, Kate.
Do not disrupt my process. Adrienne also had a habit of buying items from secondhand shops, collecting them, I should say, with a plan to sell them on eBay. She was always thinking she'd have multiple lamps and home goods and knickknacks piled high all over the place, in addition to her own clutter. And in the midst of all of this, she's writing screenplays. So she's just like doing it all.
Oh my God. I don't understand. I don't know how people could do that. It's just like one thing after another, constantly like doing everything in between other things.
Yeah, yeah. She seemed pretty good at it.
Good for her. That's talent.
Adrienne wrote and directed a short film before writing and directing her first feature, Sudden Manhattan, in which she also starred. She was worried about getting funding for her film because the money just wasn't coming in.
Yeah.
She didn't have backing, and her friend Nina Bieber, I think that's how you say it, was like, don't worry about it. It's your first screenplay. It could take years. Maybe the next one will get made. And Adrienne said to her, I don't have that kind of time.
That's spooky, almost, Kate.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I know she was terrified because her father passed away at a young age. But knowing where this goes, it's like, fuck.
Yeah. There was always that sense of urgency in her, that fear of dying young, that need to do what she wanted now and to not wait. She was really smart in how she wrote Sudden Manhattan. She wrote it knowing she'd need to keep it small so it could be done with little money. Mm-hmm. She used just a few locations, only a couple of recurring characters, and a lot of street scenes because she knew those could be shot quickly without a big setup, like guerrilla style, like let's go shoot it. Okay, let's go to the next block.
Street.
Yeah.
Love that.
She did a public reading at Nuyorican Poets Cafe, which was a place known for talent scouts and new screenwriters hoping to get some attention. And the day after the reading, Adrienne had more than 20 calls from interested producers.
Holy shit. Good for her.
She ended up partnering with Marcia Kirkley, who had just left a film company to start her own production company, Homegrown Pictures. They went into production, but it was not smooth sailing. 3 weeks before they were to start shooting, her cinematographer quit to take a higher paying job. A week later, Adrienne got a horrific stomach virus that landed her in the hospital. Then in the post-production process, she broke up with her boyfriend. So her personal life was crumbling.
Shambles. Jesus.
And while she was at work editing the film, some asshole broke into her apartment and robbed the place. She said they completely cleaned her out. Things didn't get easier after the film was released. While there were some favorable reviews, there was one that absolutely devastated her.
No.
I think I found the one that's being referred to. It was in TV Guide. It just rips her to shreds. It's awful. And her friends questioned if the same thing would have been said about a man. She had a rough time with it, but she kept going, she kept writing, and she kept making movies. And what became her sort of trademark was finding the humor in what's painful. And she used that tactic a lot in her personal life. She had a lot of bad relationships with men. A lot of guys thought because of her look, I mean, she was tiny, her childlike voice, guys saw her as someone they could control.
Ew.
And so when they realized, oh, here's this incredibly intelligent, powerful, strong woman, they didn't know what to do with that. So those relationships ultimately didn't work out, but she deeply wanted a partner and she wanted a family. Then 9/11 happened, and she was living in New York City. She was right in the middle of all of that. And right after 9/11, she thought, I can't wait. I want to find someone. Life is too short. So she decided to try online dating. Mm. She went on Match.com, but she was embarrassed about it. She didn't want anyone to know. She liked one guy's profile, just one. She clicked on that guy's picture, and that guy was Andy Ostroy. They hit it off, but when people asked how they met, she would always make up a story. She told one friend she met him when he was volunteering downtown in the cleanup of 9/11. She told another friend she met him at a political conference. Someone else said that they met through mutual friends.
Oh, my God.
But there was one friend of hers who knew the truth, and he was like, girl, that's how people do it these days. Like, there's no shame.
My dad used to do a lot of online dating when it was like first, like a big thing. And I remember he signed up for eHarmony, which I think is like the Christian one.
I think so.
But at the time, you had to fill out a profile and it would match you with people.
Okay.
Like based on everything that you filled out. And sorry, I love this because I don't like my dad that much. But he got results that they were like, you're in the 0.001 of people that we can't find anyone for. So sorry, bye.
Oh, that's rough.
I know. It was.
He is smiling, everyone.
Isn't that crazy, y'all?
It is. Adrienne told Andy, we're going to go on a 5-minute date. And he was like, how does that work?
5-minute date.
And she said, we show up. I look at you. You look at me. We talk for 5 minutes. We hate each other. What's the point of staying? That 5-minute date turned into a 5-hour conversation. Adrienne had made a list of the qualities she was looking for in a guy. Number 1, he had to be smart, at least as smart as she was. He had to have an interest in the arts, but not be an actor. He needed a great sense of humor, and she wanted him to be at least as successful as she was and not be threatened by her success. There were several other qualities on her list, but those were the biggies for her. Andy was a divorced dad of 3. He'd been married twice before. She did not have that on her list, but he was it for her. The following summer, Adrienne and
I mean, that's good. I get like looking for certain qualities in people, but like when it comes to check boxes, it's always a little bit more nuanced than that. So good for her for like not, using that as something negative.
Yeah. The following summer, Adrienne and Andy went to Paris and he proposed.
Paris. Oh, fuck that place. Remember Paris? We had that long conversation.
Oh, because you hate the French?
No, okay. Parisians.
Oh,
Parisians.
specifically Parisians. I didn't realize.
It creeps back in every time.
And then they sat on some steps facing the Eiffel Tower and planned out the wedding. Love. They married just a few months later on December 21st, 2002. There is footage of their wedding in that documentary. She wrote her own vows, obviously, and told him, quote, "This is the mad, crazy love affair I have waited for my whole life." And she called his kids an extra blessing to her. In 2003, Adrienne and Andy found out they were going to have a baby of their own. And when Adrienne was 8 months pregnant, she wrote a screenplay that was really a love letter to her daughter. That screenplay was for the movie Waitress.
Oh, such a good movie.
It is. It's about a woman who finds out she's pregnant and is worried that she's going to become less of herself once the baby is born. Very real fears that Adrienne herself was feeling at the time. But of course, once the baby is born, there's this love that kicks in that changes her in the most positive way. And it's a film about the search for happiness and the friendship between women. Carrie Russell plays the lead, and Cheryl Hines and Adrienne play supporting characters. Adrienne rehearsed her lines with Andy. There's footage of this in Andy's home videos. And she has a line in that movie about going on a 5-minute date, which is a fun callback to her and Andy's first date.
That's cute.
Once filming began, Adrienne cast her family in the film. Her mom, Elaine, is in it as one of the women in the pie contest. I think I mentioned it earlier. Her mom is in several of her films.
Oh.
Andy is in it. His character is listed simply as Cake Man. And their daughter, Sophie, is in the film. Sophie plays Jenna's, which is Carrie Russell's character, plays her daughter as a toddler. And at the end of the movie, there's a scene where Carrie Russell is carrying Sophie. They walk out of the pie cafe along with Cheryl Hines and Adrienne. And Cheryl and Adrienne are standing at the front of the cafe watching Carrie as she walks down the road holding Sophie. And Sophie says bye and waves to them as they start to walk away. And once you know what happens to Adrienne and how her life was cut short, that scene becomes that much more poignant because it's literally Sophie waving goodbye to her mom. Carrie Russell said that when they were filming that scene, Sophie was fixated on Adrienne. She would not look away. And Adrienne had to eventually hide behind a bush, I think it was, so that they could get the shot because Sophie just wanted her mom.
Yeah.
Adrienne knew that what she had with Waitress was something special. And she knew if she could get it into Sundance where people would actually see it, it could really be big. She submitted the film to the festival and waited. On Halloween 2006, Adrienne knew she should be hearing very soon whether or not Waitress had been accepted to screen at Sundance. That evening, she was joking around with her producer, Michael Royf. I'm not sure if it was a conversation they had over the phone or if he was at that Halloween party that she and Andy threw at their apartment. Because remember, October 31st, 2006 was a really happy night for Adrienne and her family. They had Elmo, they had a piñata, they were having a great time. Adrienne joked with her producer that maybe they should send the Sundance judges some pies. She said, "Do you think they should be making this decision on an empty stomach?" And the next morning, Adrienne and Andy got to spend a little more time together than usual. I think maybe he didn't have to go to his office until a little later, perhaps. So they got to have a few extra moments together than they normally would have.
That's nice.
Then around 9:15 a.m., Andy gave Adrienne a ride to the West Village apartment where she once lived, which she now used as an office. She had kept it even after she married so that she would have a private space where she could go and work. He watched her walk into the building, and then he drove on to work. He had no clue that would be the last time that he would see her alive.
God damn it.
He tried contacting her throughout the day, but he couldn't get a hold of her. She wasn't answering her phone or responding to his text. He tried emailing, but didn't get a reply. That was highly unusual. Even more alarming was that their babysitter hadn't heard from her. It was very out of character for Adrienne, and Andy knew something was wrong. After work, Andy and his friend Brian were scheduled to go do some kind of event together. I think it was a work event, and Andy told him, "Something's not right. Before we go to this event, we need to check on her. I have a bad feeling." Andy was a nervous wreck on the drive from his office to Adrienne's, and Brian was trying to calm him down by coming up with possible reasons why he hadn't heard from her, probably like maybe she's in the zone with the writing and is ignoring the calls, or maybe she went to a coffee shop instead, just trying to ease Andy's fears. But Andy knew that wasn't Adrienne. She wouldn't just ignore his calls and not check in with the babysitter. Andy and Brian arrived at Adrienne's building at 15 Abingdon Square. Brian waited in the car while Andy went to go check on his wife. When he dialed her on the intercom, she didn't answer. The doorman let him into the building, and he made his way up to the 4th floor to apartment 47, Adrienne's office. He banged on the door, called out her name, but she didn't answer. He could tell things weren't right. For one, the door to her apartment wasn't locked. When he tried the doorknob, it opened right up.
Oh, that's a bad sign.
When he walked inside, everything was still, with the exception of the TV. It was turned on to CNN at low volume. Andy said he immediately felt an evil presence when he walked into that apartment. Nothing seemed disturbed, nothing seemed out of place, but there was also no sign of Adrienne. Until he reached the bathroom. There he found his wife hanging by a sheet from the shower curtain rod. He immediately called Brian, who was waiting down in the car, and he said, "Get up here. Adrienne's dead." For a husband to discover his wife like that,
I can't even imagine what that's like.
That's an image you can't get out of your head. Like, he's always going to
He'll
have
always
that.
have that. Oh my God.
He said in the documentary, quote, "I wasn't supposed to find her like this. I was going to show up and she was going to be standing outside talking on the phone or something, and she would apologize like, 'Oh, Andy, I'm so sorry.'" That's what he was hoping for anyway when he drove over there. He called the police. At that point, it was about 5:45 p.m. When they arrived, they determined by the degree that rigor mortis had set in, she had been dead for at least 5 or 6 hours, which would put her time of death around noon or earlier. There was no sign of forced entry. Officers were quick to declare Adrienne's death a suicide. However, Detective John Cantone, one of the first to arrive at the scene, noted that Adrienne had marks on her forehead and cheek, and he felt something was off.
Yeah.
An autopsy conducted the following day listed her cause of death as compression to the neck, which could be consistent with hanging.
But also strangulation.
Exactly. The press jumped on this. News outlets were reporting her death as a suicide. Papers were running headlines like "Suicide Stunner," "Film Star Suicide," "Adrienne Shelly hanged herself." This really pissed off her friends and family.
Yeah.
They knew
Fucking
there
news
was
outlets.
They knew there was no way Adrienne would ever leave her family, and Andy did not want Sophie growing up thinking her mom had left her.
Right.
The police had questioned him for hours, asking things like, was she depressed? Were there any signs? Was she suicidal? And he was like, no. And he said there was also no suicide note. It just didn't make sense. After he saw the headline in the New York Post that she had hanged herself, he called the police station. It was Friday, November 3rd. He asked to speak with a detective, but they told him that detective was gone for the weekend. So Andy said, all right, well, let me talk to someone else that's working on her case. And they told him, there's no one else working on your wife's case.
Oh, my God.
They said, I know you don't want to hear this, but this was a suicide.
Shut the fuck up.
That evening, Andy went on the local news and said,
Good.
My wife did not kill herself, and our daughter needs to grow up knowing the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, everything changed. Detective Jimmy Piccione called Andy and asked him to come down to the station to talk. Detective Piccione showed Andy a picture of the knot that was used to tie the sheet to the shower curtain rod. It was a very specific, very intricate type of knot. And the detective asked Andy if Adrienne knew anything about tying knots like that. And Andy said, no, do you? He was pissed. And it was this knot that the detective just couldn't get out of his head.
Mm-hmm.
That same day, Andy hired Dr. Michael Baden, I've heard it different ways, to conduct a second autopsy. If that name sounds familiar to you, it's because Dr. Baden is the same forensic pathologist that Marlon Brando hired to examine Dag Drolet, who was shot by Marlon's son Christian.
Oh, shit.
Go listen to our two-parter on the murder at
Call
Marlon
back.
Brando's house.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about Dr. Baden for a minute. He was the chief ME for New York City between 1978 and 79, but was fired from that job by Mayor of New York City Ed Cook due to complaints of, quote, sloppy record keeping, poor judgment, and a lack of cooperation, according to the New York Times. And my bad, it's pronounced Ed Koch, not Ed Cook. Baden sued for wrongful termination and won. He had seemingly always been controversial and is known for often contradicting the findings of local authorities. He has also worked on a lot of high-profile cases, and some suggest that he is perhaps drawn to the attention that garners.
Sounds like it.
Mm-hmm. He testified on behalf of O.J. Simpson, but later disowned claims that he made in court. He basically tried to say that Ron Goldman had fought for 10 minutes after having his jugular vein severed because that would help support O.J. Simpson's alibi time-wise. He later denied ever saying that, and when he was shown video of himself making that claim, he disowned it and said he misunderstood the question.
Yeah, right. This guy just sounds like you can probably sway him in whatever way that you need to.
He also testified on behalf of Phil Spector in his murder trial and tried to present an alternate theory of how the victim's blood ended up on Phil's jacket. When the prosecution asked Baden if he had any conflicts of interest in the case, he said no. But it was revealed later that his wife was one of Phil Spector's main defense attorneys.
Oh, shit.
He's been a part of several other high-profile cases. Those are just a couple, as well as the series Autopsy that aired on HBO years ago. He's the guy people hire when they don't like what the police or county coroner have to say about a case. He's very controversial, but when people are feeling desperate, he's who they turn to.
And I'm sure he tells them what they want to hear in exchange for like a nice chunk of change.
The last film in HBO's Autopsy series aired in 2006, the year Adrienne died. So my guess is Andy knew him from that.
Mm-hmm.
And he hired him to look into Adrienne's case. Dr. Baden conducted Adrienne's autopsy under the watch of 2 detectives and did find evidence of a struggle, bruising to her face, mostly on the left side, as well as her forehead, along with injuries to her hands. For Andy, this was the proof he needed that she did not take her own life. Baden came through for him in the way that he had hoped. So in this case, his involvement was positive.
Sure, but the detective who...
Exactly. Had already seen those marks on her. So I don't know that he really presented any new evidence.
No.
But I think his findings supported
reinforced those. Okay, sure.
Detectives went back to the crime scene to look for more evidence, and they looked again at that knot used on the sheet. And while in the bathroom taking photographs, Detective Cantone noticed a very faint outline of a shoe on top of the toilet lid. To try to get a better view of this shoe print, he used magnet powder, which is small magnetic flakes that adhere to anything sticky. So when it's brushed over a print, it helps to define what's there. Once he brushed the magnet powder onto the lid, it showed a more distinct shoe print. Officers also removed the toilet lid itself and took it into evidence. Adrienne was not wearing shoes when she was found. Her shoes were in the living room, and the bottom of them did not match the prints they found on the toilet. The print also didn't match any of Andy's shoes, because the detectives did check those. Detectives then had all the officers and EMS responders that had been in that apartment to return so that they could examine their shoes, because they had to rule out this being the shoe print of someone trying to cut Adrienne down to save her or examine her. They didn't find a match. Investigators knew the shoe was a sneaker, so they visited nearby sporting goods and shoe stores. The print had two distinct circles on it, one at the ball of the foot and one at the heel. I'm going to post a picture. It was a specific design. So they compared it to the sneakers found at these shoe stores, and from that, they were able to determine it was a size 8 Reebok men's shoe, Allen Iverson style. Allen Iverson was a basketball player and had this shoe deal with Reebok. So Reebok had a line of Allen Iversons, this particular shoe design. It was a popular model that was sold all over the city.
Sure.
The shoe was their only real lead, but because of how common it was, it could belong to anybody. So detectives take a closer look at Adrienne's friends and family, which of course included her husband, Andy. Andy was never a suspect. His alibi checked out. Andy is a hero in this story. He had absolutely nothing to do with her death, so I just want to put that out there. They looked at Adrienne's colleagues and learned there was a screenwriter that had been harassing Adrienne to read his screenplay, and she wasn't interested. They looked into him, but turns out he was out of the country when she died. Investigators go back to the crime scene to try to uncover who has access to the building, who might have had access to Adrienne's apartment.
Right.
Standing outside of apartment 47, Detective Piccione happened to notice a bit of dust on the floor in the hallway. Not just regular old dust like the hallway needed to be vacuumed. It was like sawdust from construction. So he asked the super or building manager or whomever if there was construction happening in the building. And the manager said, yes, in apartment 37, just below this one.
Oh, shit.
The detective goes down to number 37, and the door was ajar, so he goes in hoping to talk with the workers. But it was Sunday, so no one was there.
Damn it.
However, there was construction paper laid out on the floor, like the big brown craft paper that they tape down so they don't damage the floors while they're working. And on the paper, Detective Piccione spots a shoe print.
Oh, shit.
Identical to the one found on Adrienne's toilet.
Fuck.
He calls other officers in, and they cut out that piece of construction paper and take it into evidence. Detectives contacted the construction company and got the contact information for the foreman for that job, a man named Wilson Pilko. They go to Wilson's apartment in Brooklyn. Wilson answers the door. And right there in the entryway is a backpack on the floor with a Reebok sneaker sticking out of it.
The shoes.
The detectives are like, hey, mind if we take a look at those sneakers?
They're like, are those size 8 Reebok Larschling, whatever that guy's name was?
Allen Iverson.
Allen Iversons.
And Wilson's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
Officers pull the shoe out of the backpack. It's a men's Reebok, size 8, Allen Iverson style. The detectives ask Wilson, hey, is that your shoe? And he says, no, it's my brother's. And he's like, hey, Diego, come here. So here comes 19-year-old Diego Pilko.
19.
Who also lives in this apartment. And the officers ask if he's willing to come down to the police station. They just want to talk to him. And he agrees. Detectives were able to get a search warrant for the shoes so they could be taken into evidence.
Yeah.
And they sent the shoes to a crime lab to determine if the shoe was the same one that made the print on the toilet. And no surprise here, it was a match.
Fuck.
When police questioned Diego, he said, yeah, I was working in that building on November 1st. They showed him a picture of Adrienne, and he said he'd never seen her before. He said he'd never been in apartment 47. They knew that was a lie because of the match of the shoe print.
Right. He was there.
So they're like, wonder what else he's lying about. Detective Irma Rivera Duffy was one of the lead detectives on the case, and she was sitting across the table from him during this interrogation. She notices that Diego is holding a prayer card, and he keeps rubbing his thumb over it. So she starts asking him about his family, his religion, asks him if he has any kids. He says no. She asks if he has any nieces or nephews, and he said yeah. So she had him name each one and tell her how old they were. The last one he named was his niece Tiffany, who was about 2 years old at the time. I've heard different ages of her too. I've heard 4. And Detective Rivera Duffy tells him, the woman that died had a daughter about Tiffany's age. And then she said, sometimes when we do something wrong, God doesn't punish us, he punishes our loved ones. And at that, Diego confessed. He said, okay, I did it. They had their confession, which was great, but finding out his motive was a bit harder because Diego was not a very truthful man. He told investigators that on November 1st, Adrienne had come downstairs to apartment 37 to complain about the construction noise, calling Diego a son of a bitch and slapping him in the face.
Wait, who did he say did that, Andy?
Diego said Adrienne did that.
Adrienne came down and did that. Yeah, I don't think so.
He said she then threatened to call the police, which worried him because he was in the country illegally and he was afraid he'd be deported.
Mm-hmm.
He then followed Adrienne back up to her apartment and begged her not to report him. But when she picked up the phone, he said it triggered something in him and he hit her, knocking her to the ground. He thought he had killed her, so he tried to make it look like a suicide. He told investigators he got the idea to make it look like a suicide from something he saw on a telenovela in Ecuador. And then he just went about his day thinking he had gotten away with murder. Not only had he murdered her, but he's trying to blame it on her. She started the argument. She called him names. She slapped him. Then on top of that, he tried to make it look like she took her own life so that her husband, her daughter, her friends, and family would all have to live thinking Adrienne had chosen to leave them. 95% of the story he told investigators is a complete fabrication.
Really?
Adrienne never complained about the noise. She never called him any names. She didn't slap him. And detectives were able to determine by the lack of construction dust on her shoes that she never even went down to apartment 37. But the press had picked up the story and printed it.
The press needs to calm their tits. Like, fucking chill out, you stupid bitches.
Sit down, New York Daily News.
Take a seat. Take several seats.
The New York Daily News ran an article that painted her in a negative light and made Diego out to seem like he was this peaceful worker and that Adrienne was using his immigration status as a weapon against him.
So the newspaper thought that it was okay that she got killed because...
They weren't saying that, but they definitely paint Diego out to be like this innocent kid.
Oh, shut the fuck up. Not you, Kate, them.
To make matters even worse, just 3 months after she was killed, Law and Order aired an episode titled Melting Pot, which used her murder as its plot. Like the press, it painted her in a negative light, making it look like she had threatened to report her intruder's immigration status. Adrienne had once guest starred on Law & Order, so to have them then use her death in that way felt like a low blow to her loved ones.
It's actually pretty fucking disgusting. Like, that's really gross. 3 months, and it's not, like, the case isn't closed.
And the way that they portray it is not, it's fictional, obviously, and they do, like, so many twists and turns.
Right.
But that's definitely the case that is used for that episode because, Law & Order is all about ripped from the headlines.
Yeah, ripped from the headlines, but maybe give it some time.
Diego Pilco was in the country illegally. He grew up on a farm in Ecuador where he learned how to make knots to tie up hogs. He came to the United States in hopes of a better life where he planned to work and send money back to his family. He owed somewhere between $12,000 and $13,500 to the people that helped smuggle him into the country. So he worked with his brother in construction, and to supplement that income, he robbed the apartments in the buildings where he worked, which is exactly what he was trying to do to Adrienne that day. November 6th, the day Diego was arrested for murder, was the same day it was announced that Waitress had been accepted into the Sundance Film Festival.
Oh my God.
Diego agreed to a plea deal. He pled guilty to manslaughter in the first degree, which is less severe than first-degree murder. He was sentenced to just 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. At the time, Andy felt satisfied with that sentence, although in court he did tell Diego, quote, "You deserve no mercy. I want you to rot in that cell. I will spend the rest of my days hating you with every fiber of my being for what you have done."
Finally, someone who's not, I forgive you, which you don't have to do.
2 years after Adrienne's death, Andy filed a lawsuit against Bradford General Contractors, the company that hired Diego, stating she would still be alive if the company had done their due diligence in the screening, hiring, training, and supervision of their employees. The suit also claimed Pilko might have been trying to protect that company by stopping Adrienne from blowing the whistle on the fact that it was hiring undocumented workers. Here's the thing.
I was going to say, I'm a little like, I don't know about
You and I are
that.
on the same page. Diego's immigration status did not cause him to commit murder. There are plenty of undocumented workers who are in this country trying to make money and make a better life for themselves than the one that they escaped from. That doesn't automatically lead to murder. Also, there's no way Adrienne would have known that he was an illegal immigrant. Like, there's no way of knowing that. She didn't know this person. The judge in the case agreed and threw out the lawsuit.
Okay, good.
Agreed with what we're saying.
Yeah.
Justice Lewis York said, while this court sympathizes with Ostroy's loss, plaintiffs have not presented sufficient legal grounds upon which to hold Bradford General Contractors liable for Pilko's vicious crime. There was no proximate cause between Pilko's undocumented status and the crime to be committed. And the thing is, had there been an extensive criminal background check on Diego, they wouldn't have found anything.
Right. Because how would they know?
He'd never been in trouble with the law before. He'd never committed a violent crime.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone that knew him spoke of how he was just a peaceful teenage kid, never aggressive, very responsible. Which makes the whole thing that much scarier, because it's like, how do you jump from petty theft of like seeing if an apartment door is open and trying to grab some cash really quick just to help your family out with money? How do you go from that to murder? And then covering it up to make the victim look like she's the one at fault.
Right. That's a big jump. But also, like, was he robbing her place and she was home?
Yeah, we're going to talk about exactly what happens.
Okay.
In February of 2018, Andy wrote Diego in prison asking to meet with him. And Diego agreed. I could not do that.
I don't think I could do that.
You can watch their encounter in that documentary Adrienne on Max.
Mm-hmm.
Andy shows Diego pictures of Adrienne, pictures of them, pictures with Sophie. He makes him look at each one. Mm-hmm. It is heart-wrenching. He also makes Diego tell him exactly what happened that day in 2006. Diego would go to whichever construction job he was assigned to, and on November 1st, he happened to be sent to 15 Abingdon Square, Adrienne's building.
Mm-hmm.
He was looking for apartments in the building to rob, and he made his way to number 47. He said he put his ear to the door to hear if anyone was inside, and the door just popped open. It apparently wasn't locked.
Mm-hmm.
He saw a purse sitting on the table right there in the living room, I guess, so he took out money from her wallet, he put the purse back, and Adrienne heard this from the room she was working in, so she went out and caught him and said she was going to call the police. He could have just dropped the money right there and run away, but he didn't. Diego told Andy he then got behind her and covered her mouth and told her not to call the police. He said he just lost it at that point and started choking her with his bare hands. I mean, it was like a switch flipped. It was so sudden.
It's terrifying.
He doesn't say how long he had his hands around her neck, but said that when he let her go, her lips were blue. He thought to himself, I killed her. So he then took her into the bathroom and hung her to make it look like a suicide. Diego is currently serving his sentence at the Coxsackie Correctional Facility in Coxsackie, Greene County, New York. His earliest possible release date is April 6, 2028, in just 4.5 years.
Fuck.
His sentence expires on November 4th, 2031. Regardless of when he is released, he will be deported back to Ecuador, which makes the crime seem that much more senseless because he acted out of fear of being sent back, and because of his crime,
he's being sent back.
Exactly. 2 months after Adrienne was murdered, Waitress premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. Andy actually carried a vial of her ashes with him because he wanted her to be a part of it.
That's really sweet.
And one morning while he was there, he got up early and went to the top of the hill where the festival is, and he walked down the middle of the road, tossing her ashes up into the air. And then later at the screening, he was standing in the theater and he threw a bit of her ashes up. And right as he did, Harvey motherfucking Weinstein walked past and some of her ashes landed on his shoulder. Andy said Adrienne would have thought that was hilarious.
Oh my God.
Waitress was the darling of the film festival.
Good.
It went on to garner... That was Kevin yawning and talking at the same time.
I'm sorry. It happened simultaneously.
It went on to garner multiple nominations and wins at various festivals. And in 2016, Waitress the Musical opened on Broadway, boasting the first ever all-female creative team for a Broadway musical.
I remember that when it came out.
Have
you seen it?
I haven't.
Kate.
I know.
Oh my God. I saw the tour when it came through Chicago.
Oh, nice. It received multiple Tony Award nominations, including for Best Musical, along with several Drama Desk Award nominations. Waitress was Adrienne's love letter to her daughter.
Yeah.
And the documentary I've been referencing is Andy's love letter to his daughter and to Adrienne. He directed it.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He has worked hard to keep Adrienne's memory alive.
Yeah.
Soon after her death, he established the Adrienne Shelly Foundation, a nonprofit organization with one mission: to support women filmmakers.
Oh, that's great.
The foundation helped fund Cynthia Wade's documentary Freeheld, which won an Oscar in 2008 for Best Documentary Short Subject.
Holy fuck, good for him.
Her film won several other awards at multiple festivals, including Sundance. Oscar winner Chloe Zhao received a grant early in her career when she was making her first feature-length film. She said, quote, "I was the recipient of the 2012 Adrienne Shelly Foundation Fellowship through the Sundance Institute. ASF's grant came at a critical time in my career when I was developing my first feature. The foundation continues to be an incredible resource and important source of funding for women filmmakers." It's pretty incredible to see all the ways in which Adrienne impacted the industry. I'll include a link in our show notes to the foundation's donation page.
That's interesting to me. I want to look up more about that.
If you've got the means, consider throwing them your support.
Donation,
They're doing amazing stuff. The Women Film Critics Circle established the Adrienne Shelly Award, which is given out every year to the film that most passionately opposes violence against women.
Good.
Waitress is available, I believe, on Prime Video. And if you're like me and have not gotten to see Waitress the Musical, guess what? They filmed the Broadway production starring Sarah Bareilles back in 2021, and it's scheduled to hit movie theaters this December.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
Adrienne Shelly was just 40 years old when she was killed.
No.
The same age as her
father.
But she wouldn't want her loved ones to be consumed by her death. In her journal, she once wrote, quote, "When loss, the fear of it as well as the truth of it, runs your life, there's not much room in your life for other things, like love. Being human means being at the mercy of the unthinkable. It also means having the capacity for great courage and even greater magic." That's it, Misfits.
Kate, that was a beautiful story. I mean, how you told that was beautiful. Like, it's awful what happened to her.
Of course.
And I feel like this is one of those things that surrounds that movie and that musical and that story. It's like, oh, did you know that the lead, one of the actresses in this movie was murdered? And it sort of becomes this weird, like, strange, like, legend around a movie. But
what's interesting is that her death had nothing to do with the success of it.
It didn't. No, because it hadn't even cleared Sundance yet.
Sundance had already accepted the film. They just hadn't sent out their notifications.
The notifications, right.
And so already it was recognized. And then the musical that, comes out 10 years later, they're not going to just make a musical because of what happened to her. It's not like it was a pity.
No,
you know?
of course not. That story is so strong and beautiful.
She was such a strong storyteller and with an amazing vision and voice for women. And it's sad that we don't get to see what else she could have created.
No, but at least she gave us something that's gonna that is like part of movie history.
Exactly,
now, you know?
And it's still living on.
It's still living on, absolutely,
in different forms. So pretty amazing. What an impact!
I'm glad she got to create something so powerful. You
Absolutely.
know?
And
what a loss!
Oh,
Sorry, what a loss.
Yeah, I will say her daughter Sophie has a lot of her in her. Like when you watch that documentary.
Oh, I want to watch it.
She looks like her. She kind of sounds like her. She's an adult now. I mean, she just seems like an awesome, awesome young woman. And Andy, who has been the voice for Adrienne all these past years and like keeping her memory alive. It's a really beautiful family. And it's nice to see that her impact has helped so many other women. That's exactly what she would want.
Exactly.
Let us know what you thought, Misfits.
Oh,
you
Misfits.
can leave us a comment on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube at
Horrorwood Podcast.
Or shoot us an email at
horrorwoodpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you're feeling so inclined, you can throw a little change our way at
patreon.com/horrorwoodpodcast. Oh,
is that your Dracula voice?
It is.
I like it.
Thank you. My name's Baby Dracula. That's my drag name.
I like it.
Also, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe.
Rate, review, and subscribe.
I've always wanted to say that. Rate, review, and subscribe.
And you...
Wink, clink. There's like a ding.
We did it.
We did it. Bye.